The best way to treat yourself is to be financially stable. Hi guys, my name is Michelle Reed and I am a current college student, but in my last video I got a lot of questions about finances and budget, and I asked you guys if you would like to see a video on how to budget, how to handle personal finances, and how to save money. And so today's video is going to be how to save $10,000. And when I say that, I mean these are just general budgeting tips, but they're actually very specific. I asked on Instagram for you guys to ask me specific questions, and I got really great questions, and a lot of people said they wanted, to know the exact Excel file that I use for my budget, and so I will have that down below if you want to download it as a template. I just wanted this video to be very specific and very helpful for people who are trying to budget for the first time. Obviously, I know everyone has a different financial situation, so my situation is not going to be the same as yours, and that's okay. Shouldn't compare each other to each other's financial situations, and so I just want to make that clear. I'm not an expert, I'm a senior in college, but this video is going to be geared more towards kind of young adults and getting into budgeting rather than like professional advice, because I am not a professional. I just want to reiterate that I am not a professional. But I do think saving is really important, and it's something that I think I've done a pretty decent job of with, starting my YouTube channel and starting to make income off of it. And so I thought I would go ahead and do this. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to follow me on Instagram if you want to be in my Q&A video, and let's just get into it. So we're going to start with more general tips. I have my laptop here because I've written everything out. First thing would be to face the brutal facts. And whenever I say this, I mean to actually track your spending. I get a lot of questions on how to actually do this. I think it's really useful to start at the first of a month and use an app or actually track it yourself. On my Excel file, I actually have a manual entry where you can kind of put specific categories of what exactly you are tracking. Or if you're someone who doesn't really have time for that and you kind of like having apps for things, I'd recommend using the app Wally. I think it's really great. It's W-A-L-L-Y. But with apps, you do have to hook your bank account up to it. And so for me personally, I would rather just do it manually. I like being in control, and so I like that better. But it's really good to see, exactly where your money's going towards and exactly where you're spending. And so I'd recommend doing that for a month. Second tip is to write out a budget. Once you know kind of where you're spending your money, it's easier to kind of say, this is how much I need to spend here. This is how much I need to spend here. Hey, I don't really need to spend as much here. And so I have created my template. It's very general. Not all the categories are for me. I just try to include things that I thought people might need. I have a file that is for my budget. I also have an Excel file for taxes because I do all my taxes myself since I'm self-employed. But it's really good to keep organized and to actually see where everything's going. And so you don't have to use the template. If it sucks, if you don't like it, that's okay. A lot of people just ask for what I use personally, so I wanted to make that available. But whatever you use, it's important to put a budget. It can be really scary, but just kind of starting is where you need to begin. Then you can decide, how much money you want to save. Once you can see exactly where your expenses are, exactly, where you're spending money, you can actually set aside a certain percentage. I would recommend setting aside a percentage. I know everyone's in a different situation, and so they can't, but I do think that it's helpful if every month you need to stick to saving, 5% or 2%, even if it's small. Even if you're saving $5 a month, like that's $5 a month, and that adds up over time. In my Excel file, I actually have, where you can put an annual savings goal, and then I also have a monthly goal that it will automatically calculate. So next would be to visualize your goals. It's a lot easier to, change your day-to-day habits if you have a long-term goal that you're saving for, a long-term thing that you want. So whether that be writing it out, or for me personally, I'm a girl, so I kind of like Pinterest and that kind of stuff, but it can be really nice to actually create a mood board of what you're saving for. So if that's a car, if that's, financial freedom, not having loan payment, being debt-free, what does that look like to you? And actually create a board and actually save it. And so whenever you are to save money each month, you can actually see, what you're saving for. Cut out the unnecessary. I know a lot of people who responded to my Instagram story said, hey, I literally can't cut out anything. Everything I'm spending on is necessary. And if that's you, that's you. But for 95% of people, there are things that you're buying that you don't need. I can say that. I buy things that I don't need. And I'm not saying that I'm someone who doesn't buy anything. Like, I shop. You guys see my haul videos. You guys see I like buying, nice food for myself. I like buying coffee. But at the same time, those are my splurges. And so I cut from other areas to be able to do that. And so look at your tracked expenses, and I guarantee you can find something that you can cut out. Let your friends know you're saving. It'll be easier when you're hanging out with them instead of, like eating out, or instead of seeing a movie. You can figure out things that are free, but if you don't tell your friends you're saving, they have no idea, and so they can't actually do that. It makes it a lot easier to stick to a goal when you have other people holding you accountable. Even if that's like someone who's trying to audit you. You know, you have people that are trying to hold you accountable. Leave your card at home. I'm someone who I just have to eliminate the temptation from me entirely or else I won't do something. And so if I don't want to go on my phone, I'll leave it at home. If I don't want to spend money, I'll leave my debit card at home. You know, carry like $5 or $10 cash on you just in case you need it. But for the most part, you don't need your entire debit card if you're not trying to spend money. And so if you're hanging out with your friends and you don't want to spend money, leave it at home. Like, it's as easy as that. Sometimes that's what you have to do to kind of not get yourself to spend if you don't have self-control. Have no spending days. Have, you know, one day a week that you just say, hey, I'm not gonna buy anything. And it kind of gets you in the habit of just not purchasing things and not necessarily getting into the habit of spending. And doing it routinely just really makes it hit home more. And so that's something that I would recommend. I was reading a blog and she said to do it for an entire month. I think that's crazy, and for like college kids it's probably not practical. If that is, then go ahead and do it. But I think just doing it like once a week could be really helpful. This is something that my parents taught me. Also, Dave Ramsey talks about. If you know who Dave Ramsey is, he's a really great financial guru kind of person. Always have $1,000 of an emergency fund. Again, I know everyone's in different situations, but you're always gonna have surprise expenses. One time my laptop completely just died on me, and it was in the middle of midterms and finals, and I also had like 10 sponsorships due. And so I had to just go out and buy another one, and it was nice having money saved and having that emergency fund to be able to purchase that, and it didn't hurt. Especially when you're older, especially when you have kids too, I think it's really important. But you know, developing that skill of just having $1,000 that you don't touch is really, really helpful. Another thing is actually knowing easy at-home cheap meals to make. A lot of people say that it's, you know, cheaper to cook at home. I found personally that cooking for myself sometimes is more expensive to do at home versus buying like a $6 meal, because then my food goes bad, my vegetables go bad. And so for me personally, I actually have recipes that I know are cheap, not trying to cook these extravagant meals for myself, because sometimes cooking at home is more expensive, but it's all about finding, you know, the right meals that actually make it cheaper to do. Another thing that I'd recommend is create diversified income. It's kind of where like the side hustle thing comes in. It's a lot easier to save money when you actually have money coming in from different modes of revenue. What I love about YouTube is you can, you know, have YouTube ad revenue. You also have sponsorship revenue. You can have affiliate. And then for me, my golden tip, this is not sponsored, but y'all, I love Poshmark. I think Poshmark is so great. It teaches you how to sell your clothes. It teaches you about sustainability. It makes you want to get rid of things, makes you want to be a minimalist, and you just create a nice little side hustle of, you know, some money on the side. Use all of my Poshmark income for my subway passes, which are like $120 a month. It's really helpful. And so I definitely recommend downloading Poshmark or finding your version of Poshmark, whether that be like walking dogs on a Saturday. It's really easy to sign up for services that you can just easily integrate like 2 hours into your day. That's about how long, for me, that's how long it takes to put up Poshmark listings and sell them and pack them up and all that. And so I definitely would recommend that. I'll have Poshmark linked down below if you want to download it. Not making money from that, not sponsored. And the last thing I think is really important, and something I've learned in the past year, is to not neglect generosity. It's kind of paradoxical, but when you're actually giving away some of your money, it kind of makes money control you less, if that makes sense. It's something that's kind of out of your hands, and as a Christian especially, it's like, God, like this money is from you and it's a blessing from you, so I'm gonna give that back to bless you as well. And so in my budget, I actually have a tithing section. Just gonna be honest, it's something that I just started doing in the past year. It was something that I didn't think about and really prayed about. It was like, this is something that's really important and I need to be doing, and so I started doing that. Obviously, that's something that's personal. If you can't physically be generous with your money, you know, be generous with your time somehow. I just think it's really important. And now for the more specific questions that you guys actually asked on Instagram. The first one is how to not impulsively spend when you're out with friends. Like I said earlier, just leaving your card at home is sometimes like the simplest thing to do. Let them know that you're saving. Try to pick things that are free. I feel like if you have close friends, I feel like you know they're close if you can just sit around and do nothing with them, and it's just as fun. And so find friends like that. It just makes life cheaper and it's also more fun. So I got a question about tithing and how do you do it when it's hard to do sometimes when you have other things to pay for. Again, I think you make time for the things that you want to make time for, and I think the same thing goes with money. you budget for the things that you want to budget for. And so I feel like if that's something that's really a priority, even if it's like $2 a month, okay, it's $2 a month, but it's just the act of doing it that gets you in that habit. I feel like there's always somewhere you can cut from to make it happen. Obviously everyone's in different financial situations, I totally understand. Even if you don't tithe your money, tithe something else, whether that be like your time or your resources. You put a certain percent of your income into savings, or does it just depend? So for me personally, I do a certain percentage. However, I know that that doesn't work for everyone. That's totally okay. I don't think there's like one way to do it. I don't think there's a better way to do it. You have to do what works for you, but I think just seeing all of your expenses kind of makes that easier to do. Do you do your own taxes, or do you send them off to someone? So for me personally, I actually have my dad help me with a lot of my taxes, but I'm the one who does the tracking, who kind of figures out how much income I have, the percentage of it, and then doing all my expenses on Excel. It's something that I actually really enjoy doing. I really like how like meticulous and organized everything is, and I like being the one in control of that because you can actually see it all and it's really helpful. And so I personally like doing it on my own, but I think obviously it can be useful to hire someone if you have, you know, more of a complex business or something. How do you plan for surprise expenses? Again, I think it's just making sure you have the money saved, to having the diligence not to touch that saved money in case you have the surprise expenses. I know this may sound weird, but how do you not buy trendy clothes? Help. Totally doesn't sound weird, but for me personally, I know I keep talking about Poshmark. Doing Poshmark has really taught me how much more satisfying it is to actually sell clothes than buy them. It's really nice whenever you don't have a huge wardrobe because you just have, you know, more simple options of like what you're gonna wear. It makes your life easier getting rid of stuff. And so I have found that I really buy things that I know are gonna last a while and don't buy trendy things. And if I do buy trendy things, I buy them at like a thrift store or something because I don't want to spend an outrageous amount of money on something that's just trendy. Biggest tip, I think, just start giving away clothes and selling clothes, and you may find that it makes you be more of a minimalist. Is there anything you stopped buying / replaced to help save money? This varies from person to person. Again, like I said, I don't think that budgeting is all about like cutting out every single splurge item you have. I think it's only picking like 1 or 2 splurge items that you have and then kind of cutting from the other thing. For me personally, as someone who does like YouTube as like a beauty and fashion kind of person, I actually learned that buying makeup wasn't that satisfying, and I don't really care that much about buying new makeup. And so I kind of just use the same stuff, and cutting out that expense has been really useful to let me spend more money on the things I want to, like buying better food for myself or spending more on my haircuts, like that kind of thing. It's just like all about cutting from places that you don't necessarily need to spend as much on. How do you budget when your income or paycheck varies from pay period to pay period? I think the best advice is to learn how to live off of the smallest paycheck that you've gotten so far. This is really applicable for me because YouTube is it varies a lot from month to month, you know, especially like the summer months tend to be really, really good for YouTube, but in terms of within January, February, and March are definitely more slower months in terms of revenue. And so it's about, you know, saving the summer months to make sure you can support yourself in like January, February, March, like that kind of thing. It's just kind of planning ahead and knowing what's gonna come and being used to living off the smallest part that you've got. I got a lot of questions about paying off loans, and I debated answering this because I can't answer it. And I know for me personally, I'm so grateful to be in the situation that I'm in, that I don't have loans. But I also think that I've made a lot of choices, and my family's made a lot of choices to make sure that that could happen. I'm very grateful, and I know not everyone's that fortunate. I only applied to schools that I got a lot of scholarship money. I picked the school that I got the most scholarship money at, not picking a college that is extremely expensive. I'm not going to an Ivy League. I'm not trying to pick something like that. I'm also very grateful that my grandparents contribute a lot to our college education because that's important to them. I'm in a very large family, which means things are very expensive. I have 4 siblings. However, you know, growing up, we lived a modest lifestyle, so my parents could help us with tuition, which was like the biggest gift of all. Didn't go on fancy vacations, you know, lived within our means, like that kind of thing growing up. And so I think it's all about prioritizing, and obviously not everyone's in the same situation, but I personally don't have loans, which I'm thankful for. I also know that if you're in that situation, I think the start is just like budgeting and seeing how much you can pay towards them. I also was asked what my biggest financial goals are, and for me personally, just looking kind of like short term, what the things ahead of me are. I definitely want to get married within the next few years. That is a very hefty expense. Down the road, I would like to buy a house. Putting a down payment on a house is a goal that I have. Not having debt is a very simple goal, but I'm at that right now and I'd like to maintain that. Obviously there's good debt and there's bad debt. I'm not talking about the good debt, but yeah, those are mine. I'd definitely be interested in learning yours down below if you want to say what one of your financial goals are. I also got a lot of questions about investments, and I'm just gonna be honest, I do have like retirement and a few other things that I invest in, but I don't think I'm super knowledgeable on investments and I don't want to give anyone any advice, and so there are a lot of resources out there if you want to Google, but I don't think I am an expert on this, so I don't want to answer anything. So that is everything that I am going to talk about. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if it was down below. Let me know if you would like more practical videos like this, if it would be useful to you. I would love to know that. Again, just want to reiterate, not an expert. I know everyone's in a different situation. This is just my personal advice and what works for me. Don't forget to download the template down below in the description box. And I also want to say thank you to my boyfriend Aiden for making it look pretty, because whenever I make Excel files, they never look pretty. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, friends.